No, we're doing Wednesday YouTube, hopefully forever. The podcast, this is the last podcast that's on Wednesday. Starting next week, it'll be on Thursday. Um, and yeah, I guess we can do some housekeeping this morning. Welcome everybody to the Daily Refinement Mastermind Call. We do this Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time. On Wednesday, we do it public on YouTube. Today's topic is, are resellers suckers for punishment? Because I feel like right now I'm doing a toddler course on should you spank your kids or put them in timeout, or how does it work? How do you get kids to do the desired behavior? So the lady shows talking to her kid. She's like, hey, we need to wear a jacket. It's cold outside. And the toddler's like, no. And they get an argument. Maybe now the kid gets spanked. Maybe the kid gets put in timeout. And then they show this other parent that's like, okay, you don't want to wear your jacket. That's okay. I'll have it right here for you. Let's go outside. And then the kid is outside and like, oh, it's cold. Maybe I want a jacket. They put the jacket on. The kid's like, okay. And they now associate wearing a jacket with it being cold. Desired behavior learned. Before that, though, then they associate the jacket with punishment, essentially. So I think people in this, the reason why I bring this up is I think in this group, a lot, or out there in the world, people associate listing with punishment. It's not punishment. It's part of reselling. And if you need to associate it with what happens, which is the sale part. So like, we're all just big babies. Adults are just older babies, right? So we learn with association. That's the best part of our group. You get to see how it all works. That's why so many people learn so much faster here than other places, because you get to see the association over and over and over again. The people who are done by noon, way, way, way more consistent. Why is that? Like, you don't want to wait till the second half of your day to get the most important things done. Most people here, before the call, Isaiah was talking about at what point do you guys hire a shipper or something like that. But he was saying he was doing 26 packages by himself every day. You can do over 100 sales a day by yourself. You don't need to hire anyone. But once you start recognizing the consequences of everything, everything starts to make sense. So I've been tracking my sleep. I sleep better when I work out. I've been tracking my listings. It's better when I prepare the day before. Make sure that your listings are ready for photography. So this whole thing, all reselling is just being prepared. And if you understand all the consequences, you don't want the consequence to happen. You don't want the punishment to happen. The punishment of slow sales, not being able to find an item. Yesterday, I was listening to somebody talk about how the lowest selling items often have the most returns, most cases, most defects. So we just need to associate all the positive things with how it works together. That's the whole point of this group. When somebody says, hey, you can skip my pain. Now, the thing is, you could tell a toddler who's never been outside, you need to wear a jacket, and they won't get it. Right? But I bet if the toddler watched videos or talked to another baby and the baby was like, hey, I wear a jacket when I go outside, it's way better, then the baby will learn faster. So that's what we're doing here. You still need to experience it to see how it works. But how many people here have tried starting your photo listing process, but you can't find items to list or photograph? How does that? It doesn't work. It's probably extremely frustrating. So I guess I want to ask people today about how they want to prepare their relationship with consequences, but we'll start with Sally. Sally, good morning.
Fair warning, I'm crabby today. But I only say this because you mentioned it twice. Toddler thing. And I think it applies to adults too.
It does.
But Chris, what are you going to do the day that you see a truck coming on the road and your kid doesn't? And you say, stop. And the kid says, no, I always experience things and then find them out. So with my kids, and I'm not saying I'm a perfect mom, but we had two things, non-negotiable things, and they knew what they were. And non-negotiable things were safety things. Don't put the fork in the electrical outlet. This isn't try it. And the other was, I believe, I remember my mom one time, I always wanted to sleep in the car. We'd go out at night, come back, and it'd be cold. And one time she said, fine, have at it. I loved it for about an hour until I froze and I came in. So I think both things are good, but some things, even with reselling, you need to just take somebody's word for it. It's non-negotiable, like lying about your listing. That's non-negotiable. It isn't. Why don't you try lying and then we'll see how it works out? Some things are non-negotiable, I think, with kids and relisting.
I agree with you, but they do the caveat in the course that if your kid is in physical danger, you don't have to let them experience it for themselves. But then ideally, your kid only associates those life and death things because you only use that method for that. You don't act like they're walking into the street when they don't want to eat their food. That's not the same thing, not the same level of emergency. So in this group, there really is only one level of emergency that high, and that's defects. You can't get defects in your account because then your traffic dips and then you can't survive. If you're only getting 1/10 of the traffic and you have to price everything way cheaper than everybody else just to get any traffic, you won't survive. So, okay, today I want to talk about something that everyone needs to do. You need to raise your prices, but needs to be worth it for the customer. If you always have to decrease your price, this will not work. You have to be able to provide enough value to the customer that you can charge a price that you can make a profit at. So if the market's $18.99 for an item, you shouldn't have to price it at 14 or 13 to sell it, or 12. But that means that you're doing other stuff wrong. You're not able to get the full value of the item. So consequences are important. And I think in the course I took, they just said a consequence is just a result. That's it. It's not fancy. It's not punishment. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just a result of something. So when you start thinking about reselling like tech does, how do things work together? Starts to make it a lot easier. So Isaiah or Max, do you have a comment, question?
So I'm reading The 12 Rules to Life by Jordan Peterson, a book I recommend to everyone. And there's a big part of it with negotiating with yourself and how people try to do the tyrant slave thing, that like they basically try to boss themselves or bully themselves to do what they're supposed to do. And we should be negotiating with ourselves like you would another person to do what you're supposed to do. And one of the big things I think what it talks about the thing is we'll act like we're going to reward ourselves from something and then we don't follow through with it. And I think that's part of helping with consistency, is that we're actually consistent with doing the rewards. Because when we punish ourselves, we have no problem with that most of the time, right? Like we'll tell ourselves we didn't do our listings, we didn't do what we're supposed to do. Like we're upset to do it a day. If we didn't do it in the morning, then we're upset we gotta still do it at night. And like we'll take all the punishment. But when we say we're gonna list and take the weekend off and then end up just still doing stuff for the weekend, or we're gonna list consistently for a month and then do something, like if we don't follow through with that, then it's the same thing as the child. Like you don't believe the next time that if you do the job that you're going to be rewarded with it, so you're less likely to do what you're supposed to do, and you have a harder time negotiating with yourself.
This is true. So on eBay, Sally says that our customers have been trained as toddlers that every price is negotiable. That's true and also not true, depending on how you represent yourself. I've never sent Best Buy on eBay an offer. They don't accept offers. So it depends on how you carry your store. You can tell if every single picture is in a different room, that person will accept the best offer. For sure. Because like they're desperate. If you take pictures different every single time, you're going to be so much slower than somebody that has a streamlined process. But if your store looks like Tex, where everything is the same and there's tens of thousands of items, that store will also take a best offer. Because like you could do 3 or 4 items, get a deal and go for it. But if you're selling brand new items retail, you don't need to offer a discount, or your offer is already really good. People already want the iPhone.
It's the nature. It's the nature of our. That's why I asked you, what can you do in order to what did I say? What can you do to increase value on eBay?
Yeah. The
problem is, like, I've been thinking a lot about what Alex says in $100 million offers and being the highest price individual. The problem with trying to do that on eBay is he says specifically, your product needs to be so good that people can't like look at another option and need to go buy that one. The problem with eBay is that doesn't exist. A pair of shoes that I find is the same pair of shoes Christine can find in her area and proceed to list it and sell it. And the difference between my shoes and her shoes is not going to be large enough that they're going to pay $27 for my shoe and avoid paying $22 for her shoe unless they see my shoe first and decide that they want to buy it. There are customers that do that, but like as a whole, it's hard to play that game and just price higher than the market. And I have a second piece to that too, but go ahead and say what you're about to say.
Okay, we're trying to compete on value here, right?
Yep.
Price is only one lever for value.
I think it's the biggest lever of value though on eBay. This
Not
is
quite.
why I say that. The reason why I say price is the biggest value for a biggest lever of value is because if you're selling pre-owned items, the selling point is that they are cheaper. That is
not necessarily. If you're looking for a needle in a haystack, Isaiah, sometimes some buyers that they can't get it anywhere and they find it.
I'll give you proof. I'll give you proof of this.
Exactly. But those aren't as, what's the word? Those aren't as inflexible price-wise, if that makes sense. If you have a collectible one-of-one item, a Declaration of Independence, then in that scenario, someone might pay you $20,000 for it, right? However, when we're referring to a pair of not Tommy Bahama shoes, but SAS shoes or a pair of Felines, if you're buying them pre-owned, a lot of the value conferred there is that you get it cheaper than the new price, which is why for most of us, if we took our pre-owned items and tried to charge the new prices, we wouldn't get it.
Yeah, no, competing on price is difficult on eBay if you have the exact same item. That's why we teach the zip code call, so you can try to find something more scarce.
Yeah.
Not like the scarcest means that you hunt all week and find 2 items.
For sure.
But you want to find things a little bit more scarce because competing on price alone, very difficult.
I agree with you. There are other value propositions, like you're saying, like someone is mentioning condition, right? Condition is an important one. If the shoes are more clean, then you should get a higher price. However, on eBay, it doesn't seem to work that way. You get a faster sell-through rate, but not necessarily a exponentially higher price. And if your shoes are super clean, that doesn't necessarily mean that you will go from this shoe is worth $30, I can sell it for $70.
I can actually think of 12 different ways to increase value because I think about it all the time.
I do it too. Come on, let's go.
So, okay. Number one, the value that you have, right? To get the most money, then you have to find all of the people who want to buy that item. Everybody got this? So you have the best item in the world. No one can find it. Doesn't matter. The title. You have the most complete title, which is something we teach in the group. That means the most people can find your item and they learn in the title a couple keywords they didn't even know. So they thought this was an amazing 1, 2, 3 feature thing, but in your title you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're like, wow, I didn't even know 4, 5, and 6 existed. Okay, number 2 is the pictures, right? Better pictures, people can see a better experience, more natural, more detailed pictures, more explanation of flaws.
I think
go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't think it's necessarily the photos themselves or the vibrancy of those photos. Rather, it's the photo accuracy. If the photos that they see is equivalent to the item that they receive, then it's more valuable. Because you could have amazing photos, but if it's like your white background photos weren't, like they were great photos, but like you were saying, the accuracy wasn't there. So the customer was getting something that they weren't looking for.
Yeah. And before that, actually, the better value is just something that's more desired, and more desired usually means more social proof. So like, and it also depends on who your audience is. Like, for example, if you're selling Patek Philippe or whatever, however that's pronounced, watches, they're very expensive. Like maybe an average watch is $60,000. That only impresses the top 1%. Most people don't even know what that is, right? It's more like Rolex carries a heavier social proof because everyone knows what that is, even though it's cheaper than Patek Philippe. So like for a Rolex, accuracy of photos is more important than white background. If you're buying one, you want to see where the wear is, where the tear is. Do they actually have it? Is it authentic? A pure white background on a Rolex, everyone can agree, right? It would sell worse than pictures in your kitchen, 100%. Because you don't know a stock photo, you have no idea if it's real, authentic. You have no clue. But like one that someone took a picture on their wrist outside with their name, Isaiah 123, that's way more legit as a customer thinking about that. So I think you're absolutely right. The photos are a huge way to increase value. So Sally is saying a great title for this call is how to gain an unfair advantage on a level playing field. Okay. So
Chris, this is,
go ahead, Rachel.
I'm so sorry. Morning. This
There
is
you go.
reminding me of when we did the, gosh, it was a few months ago, probably, where you had us going incognito and searching our item. And we did that in one of your calls, and we all chose the same item of, okay, which one do you think you like better? And we hadn't even read the titles yet. And the first thing that I think everybody pretty much agreed on was the image.
Absolutely.
And it was like, oh, that really brought it home. It's like, okay, wait, why? It's like, it was the cleanest image of an item. And it didn't even matter about color, I think. It was just like, yeah, we like this one.
Yeah, tech has this show me a situation where the right way is not the right way. And sometimes you'll see a photo and you'll be like, that's the right way to take a picture of that item. Like, for example, when you're selling a vase for flowers, right? You take that picture in the living room on a coffee table with natural light coming in and the light on, that's probably the right photo. You can see if there's something next to it, like a Coke can, you can see the relation in size. That's probably the right photo because people can actually see what it is, how big it is, how it looks in a room. You're going to notice it right away. Actually, that's the best exercise ever. If you search for something incognito, one of the pictures is going to be obvious to you that you want to click on it. That's a great exercise. Scroll through eBay and click on the pictures without reading the title. What draws your eye, then that's your job. Same with the title. Don't look at the pictures. Try to figure out what to click on from the title. That's huge. So in this group, we talk about how everything works together, that complete knowledge, because knowledge alone doesn't really work. It has to be connected to other things for you to naturally want to do that. Because that's what we want. We want people to naturally do the desired behavior, which is finish eBay by noon. Does anybody in here not want to do that? Done by noon, weekends off. Amen to that. If we were a religion and that was it, done by noon, weekends off, everyone, 30 a day or more, done by noon, weekends off. I mean,
I was thinking about that the other day, done by noon.
Yeah.
Because I remember we were talking about that months and months ago. We've always kind of talked about it. How do you get your shopping in, your sourcing in, and be done by noon?
You can well, it depends on when you wake up, but what I mean by done by noon is all the processing, shipping, listing, all that part.
Okay.
But you can, if you want to, like, for me, shipping 30 items takes 30 minutes. Listing 30 items would take maximum 2 hours, half an hour customer service. So we're talking 3 hours all in for listing. And this is me taking my time. So 3 hours all in for listing, photos, customer service, shipping. If I currently wake up at 4:45. I could be done by 7:45 and I could still be early bird at the thrift store. If I knew what I was doing, I could still be done by noon because I think that between 9 and 12, I could find 30 items. So the key would be, could I find 30 items in 3 hours, come home, washer and dryer? I guess it depends because I could definitely get 30 in before noon. You just have to plan it properly. So, because like between 7:45 and the thrift store opening, I could do a load of laundry with 30 items and I would be done. by noon, including sourcing.
Fair enough.
So this morning I got to the gym at 5:02 and I had difficulty finding parking, right? And opens at 5. So I got there 2 minutes late. I already had trouble getting parking. And then the trainer was like, hey, if you get here at 6, forget about it. You might as well walk here. There's no parking. And he's like, you get here at 4:30, there's 2 people in the parking lot. So like, it's actually easier to be good. It's crowded at the bottom. The people that struggle and don't want to be good at their niche and just find whatever they want, everyone is like that. The people who plan ahead, they go to the thrift store looking for 20 things, find 20 things, go home. They're done earlier, less stress. They find all the good stuff. They're always first person at the thrift. I mean, it's kind of crazy that on Friday I got to the gym early because I walked, and there's people, like I told you guys, there's people in their cars reading before the gym opens. Gym opens at 5 o'clock and 1 second, they walk in the door. As soon as it's available to work out, they work out. And if the gym opened at 4, they probably would be there at 4. They're ready to get it. I just think it's the same day, right? I'm done with the gym before people get there. And I get there when some people are done. But you have to understand the consequences and how everything works together. You get your customer service done first, then your shipping. Then, Christine, I would actually do reset to 0. If I were to redo this in my garage, essentially what I would do is, or actually I was even thinking maybe a tent. I don't know if there are tents that are affordable, but I think if you live somewhere with like not a lot of wind, or maybe there are tents that are nice, you could fit 2 husky shelves in a tent in your backyard. 1,000 items each, 2,000 items, 20 sales a day. You can make $1,000 a week in your backyard. You don't, and then that's like amazing. You could be done by 9 in the morning. Wake up, walk out to your shed, turn the lights on. It's going to be pitch dark. So your photos will always look the same. Do your photos, put it away. You'd be done before most people get to work. That's wild. Like someone's like, oh, I'm getting ready to go to work. You're like, I'm done already. I'm taking the rest of the day off.
That's like the best feeling. Like when you get up at 5, like, and you get into a store and you're cleaving with your stuff and you see people coming in, like you feel like you've already won.
Yeah, I know. Like, you know, Tech was saying, if you beat the sun up every day, you've already won. Yo, like, it's still dark here. We've gotten so much done already. So yeah. And the thing is, like, when people talk about comparing yourself with other people and how it's negative, it depends on who you're comparing yourself to. I think some people get 20 hours of productivity out of 24 hours, and I admire that. I'm pretty amazed with that. I like that. How are you able to do that? You have 4 kids, a full-time job, a side hustle. You read to your kids every night. You put them to bed. You hang out with your partner, all in the same day. How do you do that? Or I don't mind comparing myself to that person, or you wake up at noon, or like I heard this quote, 11 a.m. is when all the unemployed people wake up. You wake up at 11, try to figure out a couple of things. It's 5 o'clock, figure out what to eat, go to sleep. That's your day? That's pretty different.
I don't think they go to bed that time though. Like I'm not an early bird by any means. The only reason why I get up so early is because this call in my kid's school.
Yeah, exactly.
So I stay up naturally right now till I can stay up till 1 or 2 in the morning. So getting up at 4 in the morning is not a function.
Makes sense.
Like I do really well at night. So, but am I less of a person or worth less because I wake up later? Or
no.
like
it's based
just
on
that
100%,
as long as you're
yes.
hustling for the amount of hours that you're working, that's all that matters to me.
Based on the day. Yeah. It doesn't
That needs to be a
wake
shirt.
up. Go ahead, Vlad.
That needs to be a shirt. That
Cool.
was beautiful. Only where you say the broke people wake up at 11 a.m.
No, but it's just
What
like
did you say again? What was it?
no, unemployed people wake up at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
No, but the thing is, there's also millionaires who wake up at 11 a.m. and work till 5 in the morning. It's just what can you
Sure, I
do
totally
in a
get it.
24-hour
totally get
period?
Manny's perspective. Yeah.
Because when Prince lived with me, he wakes up at noon, but he's up till 7 in the morning. So it depends on your he's still super productive, but he wakes up at noon. It's just not normal. The only reason he wakes up at noon is because his suppliers are in Asia and they have an opposite schedule of us. So if they weren't 12 hours ahead, he wouldn't wake up at that odd time.
I think that you should be more also respect your time more too. So like in that 1 hour, how much can you get done? Like you said, like I get up and you spent your first 5 hours and you're done for the day. That's amazing.
Yep.
But the person who wakes up at noon, as long as they get done by 5 o'clock, that's amazing. It's
Then
equal.
it's the same.
Right. So, but if you wake up at 7 and it took you till 1 in the morning, not cool. Like
Yeah,
it's
that's
all
right.
about like how you value your time and how much can you squeeze in.
That's exactly right. And I think that going to the garage sale at 8 in the morning is too late. The one that you want to go to, right? That doesn't work. That's like going to the gym at 8. There's like 10,000 people there and there's no equipment available. You go there at 5 though, you might be the first person. You can pick anything. It's so weird how if you're first, you get everything. Glenn?
Yeah, me and Isaiah were talking about yesterday, and I kind of wanted to ask you a question about it. I don't know if he asked you this or not, but basically we were talking about like how do you compare one solopreneur, in the business of eBay versus somebody that has like 3 to 4 people doing it? Is at what point does it tip in the solopreneur's favor of productivity versus and how hard it is? Because my argument was it's actually pretty hard and a very few people do it. I think tech is definitely an outlier in it, but like at what point? Because like how do 2 hands outproduce 8 or 10? You know what I mean?
I know how. Okay, because I made this mistake. When you start and you want to hire somebody, often what people do is they replace things they don't like with that person, and then they do the same amount of work. So for example, let's say you do 40 a day, you don't like photos and listing, you just want to approve drafts. So then you hire someone to do 40 drafts and listings for you. That doesn't work. You just made the same amount of money now, but with somebody else's payroll, plus you have to correct their mistakes. If you hire someone to do 40 and then you also do 40, now you can afford that person because you're doing 80. So the reason why Tech's model works is they did the exact same thing as he does. And he also did that in the beginning. So him hiring out shipping allowed him to list more items. Listing more items means more money. You don't want to hire someone to do something that is a lower task than you. So it's interesting because from my experience, usually hiring one person, if they're doing listing or photos, you make the same or less than doing it yourself. That particular thing, somebody helps you with photos and listing. If you outsource that at all, you use a VA or you use a listing service or you cross list, all of those scenarios, you make less money than doing it by yourself, which is odd. You'd think like with the extra help, you would make more money, but that's not. All the people I know that do cross listing or talk about it make more money talking about it than they do selling. I know.
But
go ahead.
So like, okay, so, but like if your time is more valuable and you're not just wasting it during that time period and you're working on higher value items, like wouldn't that necessarily define the method of scale?
Only if the output goes up
as a whole. Right.
Oftentimes what happens is the output's the same, but your effort is less.
That's the key.
So it feels like, oh, I'm making progress as I'm not doing as much work, but then your output's the same.
Like your foot has to be have the same pressure on the gas pedal.
Here's the part that really, if anyone can learn from my mistake, is this. Sometimes when you hire someone, the output goes down because you take your eye off the ball and you have to train this person. So now instead of making $2,000 a week, you're making $1,500 a week and you have this person. That's like the worst possible thing that can happen. But if you are making $2,000 a week, hire someone, now you're making $3,000 a week, at least you're moving in the right direction. But usually most people are not good at managing other people. It takes a long time to learn how to manage employees. Hiring, incentivizing them, all their problems become your problems. So are you ready for that? Like, one of my workers, her cat scratched her face. This is like, I had to learn what people know. I had to Google that. What should you do if your cat scratches your face? And there's like a whole bunch of things you should do. And then she ended up still coming to work. It's pretty difficult to avoid that dip of, I mean, there's lots of books on it. Seth Godin has a good book called The Dip, where like you try to get out of being a solopreneur and you make less than doing it by yourself. Right. And then you got to survive that dip until you get to the point. But if you do what?
I always saw
I
it as
don't
an
know.
investment. That dip is an investment. So
Yeah.
it will take, like, once you hire a person, you're certain, like when I hired my person, I went from 30 listings a day to 60 listings a day. It's the only way I could justify the cost.
Mhm.
But just because I was listing 60 a day doesn't mean I was getting any extra revenue, because eBay hasn't sent me the listings,
That's right.
the sales. So even if I'm producing the double, I'm not having any revenue. So as long as you can cover that cost, I felt like it was an investment to my future sales, which is what happens because your store grows and your sales will go up eventually. But there is like this weird dip and curve. Like even if you get them to full production, you will not get the revenue for a while.
This is the same reason why cross-listing doesn't work, because you divide your attention. So like, I know for sure if I endorsed any of the software that cross-lists, it would be a six-figure deal for me. I would make probably 150 grand a year if I told people that cross-listing worked. But it doesn't work because you take your eye off the ball. You now do 50% eBay, 50% Poshmark, and like you're competing against people who are 100% Poshmark, 100% eBay, and they're going to crush you. They have way more knowledge of the platform. They're way more focused, way better pictures, titles, item specifics, pricing. So like, it's a shark tank out there. You got to focus, otherwise you're just going to get eaten alive. There's just too many people who are good at what they do, especially now, especially because of this group. If you go into the souls of pretty much every single category, the people in this group get 80% of the sales. Mark?
Hey, good morning, Chris. Okay, when you're talking about output, are you talking, you're not necessarily just talking about having more listings up more
Right.
than the time that you got your help, right?
More
Because,
output,
like,
not more listings.
gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
because so this would be part of that as well. Like, because I found like recently, like the importance of actually going out there and sourcing a little bit more than how much I was doing before.
Yep.
And going out there more often, finding out the better items than what I used to have, and putting up in my listings garbage prior to, like before, when I was going there once a week and picking up 250 to 300 items for that one day, so I could only source one day, which was a bad thing. And now that I'm sourcing a little bit more, that I'm grabbing better items. So if I bring somebody in to help me out, that frees up about an hour and a half to 2 hours of my day, and just going out sourcing on a daily basis, that would be considered as better output, correct?
Yes. So
Okay.
I can explain this another way too. Like, in the group we've been talking, I was saying, I don't remember when I said this, but I said I can do some damage with $40 on my Poshmark closet, which I haven't been doing. I listed 10 items and sold all 10 items. And I was thinking, wow, how many people in their Poshmark closet are actually completely sold out? I don't have any active items, everything's sold. Of the 10 items I sold around the house, because a lot of them were super duper random, I didn't get very much money. So at the end, when all the dust settled, I had $40 to start my business. Sold stuff around the house, $40 left. And I bought a pair of rain boots for my daughter. So it was like $56 and then ended up being 40. Okay. So that also makes you think, wow, when I spend money, I have a lot less capital to work with, because $56 versus 40 is a big difference in the beginning. But the reason why I said I could do some damage is I understand now compounding. I can take the $40 to the flea market or to the thrift store, spend 10, and maybe make 20. So now my $40 is now $60. So then I can be very, very selective in the beginning and pick really good items. So like, now I know that. I think somebody asked, how much money do you need to be dangerous? You only need $1 to be dangerous. If you know, most things are at a garage sale, you can find something worth money for $1. So once you understand compounding, then you become afraid of making a big purchase because it's like very risky. You buy 10 items, there could be something wrong with 10 items. You buy one item, it really only limits your damage to one. So like, even though tech is the biggest, he's buying pretty much exactly the same amount of inventory every week. Once in a while, there'll be a big deal that pops up. Honestly, it's like maybe only a couple times a year that he's deviating from buying the same number of items. And it's the same for me. My flea market business, I've been buying the same number of items for 2 years now, or 2.5 years now. The liquidation and PAL stuff, that's way more risky. And doing that is so risky unless you like have a whole bunch of different ways of selling it. It's very hard. For 99.9% of people, you should not buy bulk because it doesn't make sense, because the cost of selling the bottom third of it, you could use that time to just sell regular items and be better off. It depends on what you're trying to build, but the $0 to $5 million, anybody under $5 million, it's better to not buy bulk. Better to buy the same items over and over again. Actually, according to Alex Hormozy, under $10 million, you should just be selling the same thing over and over again.
Chris, what scenario is it worth it for you to bring someone else on and your output not increase? Because shouldn't it always be the case that when you add someone to the mix, the output goes up?
It depends how conservative you are. So as an example, what I did with my Whatnot business was somebody came in, they were profitable. I used that profit to hire somebody else. That person was profitable. I hired somebody else. Used that profit to hire somebody else. I didn't take any money out of my pocket. However, that would only, let's see, I'm trying to think here. It's easier on Whatnot because you get the money immediately. On eBay, it's challenging because you have to wait for the sell-through to catch up. So if Mandy goes from 30 to 60, let's say she's at 20 sales a day with 30s a day. She goes to 60 a day, she's not going to jump to 40 sales a day from 20. It slowly increases. So I guess if you have, in my opinion, you need a year's salary for that person ready. Like, who wants to get a job and they're like, it may not work out? That's not going to attract a high quality person. But if you're like, you do what you're supposed to do and you're going to be here all year. It's very difficult to.
I don't know if I got your answer or not. So,
But like,
in what scenario is it? If you have,
I guess if you have faith that even though your output doesn't go up, but that the extra listings will eventually equal more sales.
No, that would be an increase in output. I'm saying, like, you shouldn't hire someone and your listings stay the same. That's what I'm asking.
Right. Oh, so what is the scenario you're saying?
In what scenario should you? Is there a scenario that exists out there where you add someone to the mix, you hire someone, but your listings don't go up? Because our listings is our primary output. There's no.
There is
beyond I can think of one is if you have a full-time job and this is your side gig.
Yeah, if you have something that pays more per hour, in theory, like if your day job is $50 an hour and your reselling is $30 an hour, in theory, you'd pay somebody $10 an hour to work on your reselling.
Yeah, because basically you're paying for the jump start to getting it to a higher revenue, but the profit is actually going to the employee, but you're jump starting it and investing for the future. Once it gets to a certain value, then you can maybe move over full time if that's your goal.
If the question was under what conditions would you add someone and not increase your listings, it would be if you increase the value of your listings. For example, I might add someone because I'm going to jump from a 40 ASP to an 80 ASP by concentrating on a higher value product. So sometimes staying the same listing number and increasing the quality of the listing nets more money and yet does not increase the number of listings you do, I think.
Yeah, and I'm also going to add, I think like we all know, or maybe we don't have an understanding, some people, that like what it means for an employee to be profitable. And I think that's the instances that you mentioned, Chris, are like the instances where it doesn't make sense for that to happen. It might sound like the majority, but I think every company that's out there has a standard performance baseline. And from that point on, the employee becomes profitable, and everything above is profit for the company. And I mean, if you're below that standard, like your time is ticking. But if you're continuously above, meaning you are a profitable asset to the business, I think it can still make sense to do it. But I mean, obviously it doesn't make sense to do it on low value items. Like your business has to be at a certain level for it to make sense.
Agreed. I think that there's a lot of tasks in reselling that people don't like to do, so they want to outsource it. But now, like, this is the reason why I brought in the toddler conversation. You need to understand the consequence. So like, listing is part of avoiding being cold. And once that starts to click, then you don't mind you do it anyway. Even if you don't like it, you do it anyway. Maybe you don't like wearing a jacket, but it's snowing outside, so you just get used to it. Tech is grown the slowest, and every time I take my time, things turn out well. Every time I'm in a hurry, I got a lot of cleanup to do. And I realize, like Sally was saying, I don't have time to do it wrong. I just want to take my time now. And my my version of taking my time is still really aggressive. So I hope everyone here moves a lot slower than I do, because it'll take, you'll get to your goal faster than I will. Yeah, I don't have time to do it wrong, as Hanley was saying. I just want to take my time, learn how to do things right. The consequences is key. Learning how everything works together. If I don't list today, what happens to my store? If I don't get my items ready for photography, what happens to photography tomorrow? If I don't learn a niche, what happens when I go to the thrift store? So ideally, you want to create. So when I was thinking, the kid that their parent spanks them when they don't put on their jacket, they associate jacket with pain. So they don't put their jacket on. They just go outside and it's freezing cold. Right? So somehow everyone in the group needs to retrain themselves to associate only the positive behavior. Reinforce it. So when somebody in here shares, I'm killing it, I'm done by noon, weekends off, reward that person. If somebody says, today I woke up late and didn't get my listings done, don't like that comment. Just move to the next comment. Don't reinforce that bad behavior. Do not give that person a like. And then they'll be like, dang, I want the likes. So I'm going to do my work on time so I can get those likes. Imagine on social media if, progress was rewarded with 10 hearts instead of 1. That would be something else. I'm not saying that you can't struggle. You can struggle. I don't want to reward that. When I woke up late and my day was screwed up, I don't want you guys to clap for me. I want to be like, wow, let's try not to do that again tomorrow. Is it safe to build your store up to 300 to 500 items quickly and then scale back down? So this is a good question. Let's say you have a 5-a-day listing habit, and then you go to a garage sale and somebody has 50 of what you're looking for, right? But you're at 5 a day. Should you just have now 10 days worth of 5 ready to go in case you can't find stuff? In my opinion, you need a 2-week queue of items to list so you can stay safe. But if you want to build it up, I don't mind that either, as long as the quality of the listing stays the same and you can put the item away. Because that normally does happen when you're listing. You're at 5 a day. one weekend you go ham, list 100 items because you found 100 items, and go right back to your 5 a day. That's okay. eBay will just base your store on the 5 a day, not the 100 you did on the weekend. And it will be deceiving because if you list 100 in one day, you'll probably get 2 to 5 sales that day, and you feel like you're on cloud 9, but it'll go right back to your average of whatever it was. There's no way to hack that. So they give you that extra traffic every day, unless you list that amount every day. So Autumn is working on flat lay and putting measurements in the listing with the ruler. That is a lot of training. That's a lot of work to do to get all that set up. But that's like what we talk about in the group, front loading the work, front loading the research. But I really want to not reinforce bad behavior. So like, if like at a childcare center, if there is a bad behavior that happens, they should try to avoid it rather than, like, for example, this is what was in the training. If a kid screams and then you run over there, you're cooking, kid screams, you run over there and give your kid undivided attention, which is what your kid wants, right? When you go back cooking, what are they going to do? The same thing. So if you ignore that behavior, finish cooking, and then go give them undivided attention, they associate, oh, wow, we do things first, then I get my undivided attention. So it's just like a little different, but like we got to do that as adults too. So we got to reward. And if you struggle, it's okay. You can post it. Today was a bad day. I didn't get my work done. This is why. I woke up late. I didn't have my things prepared. I went to the garage sale at 8 o'clock. Then people can start thinking, okay, great. I will not do that. I will avoid doing that. Samsung says it's similar to training dogs. So I loved that show, Canine Intervention, where the guy takes dogs that are going to be put down because they're aggressive and makes them normal. And it's a stern, like in the baby training, they call it cool confidence. In the dog show, they called it stern confidence, where like you tell a dog, no, we don't do that. Like in a way that the dog knows you're alpha dog. That's not how we do things. But it's not like you don't hit your dog. That's the wrong way to do it. But like the stern, confident, cool directions, man, he transforms dogs that bite people into dogs that play with babies. I mean, it's amazing. I don't know how, like he turns attack dogs into dogs that hang out with your baby. It's literally unbelievable. And they were going to be put down because they bit people. So this show is awesome. Isaiah.
It's not about dogs.
What is it?
Okay. You said that photos, title structure, and pricing
We're bringing it home. How to build more value?
Yeah. What are the other things that brings more value?
Okay. So condition description, how accurate is the condition? That goes with photos too and title. Item specific.
Yeah.
Item specifics. Who has the most accurate item specifics?
Do you think, I don't know if customers actually utilize item specifics in order to understand the item though. I think eBay might line it up to the customer using that, but you know how difficult it is to gauge information out of the item specifics? Like you can do it if you are an expert at eBay, but there's even times where I'm looking at people's listings and trying to find where's the model at, or where's this, or where's that, and I do it every day.
Does it raise you in the search algorithm if you have a lot of those things filled out though?
Probably. But that's value on your side, not necessarily eBay side. And I'm sorry, value on your side, not necessarily the customer side. What else do you think?
Okay, so it's kind of a reverse way of how I look at item specifics. So with item specifics, the way I look at it is one of the item specifics might be how your customer searches for the item.
Yep.
So if you have all of them, the most people will find it. Then if they are all accurate and you're scrolling down as a customer and you're like, wow, I didn't know that this is also breathable. That might trigger some value because they didn't even know that existed. It's the same for me as the title. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I feel like correct, if every single item specific was perfect and filled out, you as a customer would learn about your item as you're scrolling through. You wouldn't know all of them because most people don't know all the item specifics.
I just think the biggest use is, like, for example, let's say if you had a tendency of buying low top shoes, but you didn't even know you had that tendency, but every shoe that you've purchased had the low top item specific filled in. Maybe eBay starts showing you shoes that has the low top item specific filled in. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the upsides to having them.
And I also think the reverse is true, meaning if you got the wrong item specific, I think you're going to get a double down on the negative. Like, what the heck? I thought this was supposed to be this, but it's actually this. It's like those battery packs that sell that say they're like $100,000 MAH when they're only like 1,000.
May I say something? I think this is reminding me in the restaurant, like, I don't think I'm agreeing with what Isaiah is saying. I think the items is filling that out is helping eBay send the right traffic to the listing. But like in the restaurant, we don't describe what a salad is. We just say the name, and it's up to the server to present the right item to the right person. And so as a reseller, it's up to us to know who we're shopping for and how to display and how to photograph and how to put the right item in front of that person. And that comes with niching down.
Do you think if the server knows more about the food, the tip will be higher?
Oh, 100%.
Why is that?
Well, because we know about the food because we can put the right item in front of the right person.
Yeah.
And that's all it is.
That's all it is. I know.
That's all it is. You just have to put the right, like, I'm not going to put an itty bitty 4-ounce filet in front of a big guy with, like, like, that guy doesn't want that. He wants
what if you're
a big
like,
ribeye.
What if someone was like, what's good here? And you said, I have no idea.
Oh yeah, no, you have to just say, you tell them. Yeah, people, it's weird. Like, we want to be told what we like. And then we go, okay. It's really bizarre. And so somehow you have to be shopping. You have to know who you're shopping for, which tech says a lot. And then buy that person or buy that item.
Yeah. So like if somebody comes in and they're a professional athlete and they order something very specific.
Yes.
That person is different than somebody in their anniversary.
100%. Even on their anniversary, that person's eating steamed vegetables. 100%.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my anniversary. I'll have 2 servings of vegetables today.
Yeah, they're having like 2 servings of steamed veggies, lean meat, 100%. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that is true. But that's why I'm talking about knowing more about your items. That's why the item specifics is important. Okay, then description. There is, the copywriting is a huge business. In the car business, they call it cheese. You write a description that's snappy and memorable for the item, it'll help you stand apart. I actually think Tech is pretty good at that. He's got a really good one-liner at the beginning of every single of his listings. And he's also good at one-liners in general. Like Nancy's ashtray, he came up with that. Actually, we both kind of come up with memes that people remember. But that snappy one-liner, like done by noon, weekends off by Angela, that's killer. Imagine you just think to yourself, I'm supposed to be done by noon and have the weekends off. What am I doing? What am I doing now? Not that. Who actually has that? There's probably 500 people between YouTube and our group right now. How many people are actually done by noon and weekends off? That would be awesome. We read the book The One Thing by Gary Keller. That's what that guy does. He's done by noon. Also, if he has a busy day, he'll wake up earlier the next day so he can still be done by noon. Also, guys, the accountability has been great. So the people who are emailing me, like as an example, Levi in the group, he's listing 15, selling 15 a day. He's just been emailing me every day when he's done with his 15. Morning. So yeah, you can use me as an accountability partner. Sheila just said that she dropped off her taxes. I love it. Isaiah, more? I'm not done with my list either. Go ahead.
I'm just listening. I'm listening for your list.
So description, a good one-liner be really good for your listing. And then pricing is big. So pricing is huge. If you price at the top of the market or above the market, you will get a lot of people watching and noticing. And then if you're priced lower than everybody else, that's usually a red flag. But I forget what book it said, but there's no advantage to being the second cheapest. So if you're gonna, you could go for, I'm always the cheapest on eBay, no matter what. And that's one way of doing business. Okay, then return policy.
That's a value proposition.
Huge value proposition. So I am now, I think pretty much every business I run, I love free returns, right? Like with this group, you guys make more money or save more time or you get your money back. Love it. On eBay, free returns for any reason for 60 days. I actually like that. I think that the amount of extra sales that you get for that really does make up for the people who abuse the policy. There'll be some people who abuse the policy, but
I don't necessarily think of customer value as extra sales. It can manifest that way, but I think of it more in a customer satisfaction sense. And I think through having satisfied customers, you will get more sales on the back end of that. Make sense?
Yeah, I think, well, I'm going to ask you guys what you think. When I had 2 employees, I used to let them take home items to try on and then bring them back to work. And once I hired my 3rd person, I'm like, okay, I can't keep track of this. So I have a new policy. You pay what you want for the item and you can't take it home to try it on. So you either want it or don't want it. Then I added free returns. So my employees can now buy stuff, take it home, try it. They don't like it, they can return it. And my Venmo is full. My employees buy lots of stuff now and they never return anything. So I think that free return thing really does make a big difference because it makes customers more confident. It's a big value proposition. Then also shipping time. I pride myself on same day shipping. For almost every order for me is same day shipping. And I'm right next to the distribution center. So my items arrive 1 day earlier. So I ship same day and they arrive 1 day earlier. I really like that value proposition. I'm working on everything in my life, reducing the delivery time. This is also in Alex's book, Isaiah, the $100 million offers. You want to reduce the delivery time. So he even makes the joke, maybe by the time you're reading this book, Amazon will have same hour delivery. And they have that here. There's plenty of items that you order in the morning, get it in the afternoon.
I think philosophically, the time in which the customer gets the item is part of the reason why they're buying a pre-owned item online in the first place. Like people don't necessarily want to get their item in 14 days. And if they had to get it in 14, they might rather get it in 13, excluding people that are on vacation and stuff like that. But usually people being able to get their item faster is desirable to them. And that's why a lot of feedback say fast shipping and stuff like that came here sooner than I thought it would.
Hey guys, did you guys see that Lisa, our LESA, she held up a sign saying, "How do I ask a question?"
Oh, you can raise your hand, but go ahead, Lisa.
I don't know if she's been doing it for a minute.
Go ahead, Lisa. Sorry, I didn't see you. You can just raise your hand, but go ahead. I'll ask you to unmute. There's a button. Go ahead.
Okay. So this is my very first call, and I have such simple questions. I actually have 2 of them that y'all probably have.
Go ahead.
Covered. One of them is washing your clothes. Do you do that? Do you iron them? And or do you just leave them dirty after you thrifted them?
So we recommend washing everything. Some items I don't wash, especially if I find items with tags. I won't wash it even if it's from the thrift store. And most of us do not iron. but we will put the items on the ground to flatten overnight or leave them on a hanger for a couple of days. And I think especially if you sell women's clothing, most people have a steamer. And there's a bunch of different ways to handle it, but we recommend washing clothing and hanging clothing at least 1 day in advance to get most of the wrinkles out. But you should avoid processing as much as possible. That's a huge part of this group, is reducing the processing time and being 1 or 2 days ahead. So if you have 3 racks, as an example, from us, we sell clothing. The clothing is on the rack at least 2 days before they process it, so that most
Does that have the things that help the wrinkles come out then?
Yeah, gravity helps the wrinkles come out. And also, I squish the clothing together on the rack. I don't know if that this is useful or not, but I feel like that presses it. So it hangs and it's squished on the rack.
Okay, so I have 2 other questions. First of all, does anybody have a good inventory worksheet that they would mind sharing? I have one, but I did it myself and I have no idea if I've got everything in it.
What are you tracking?
Well, I need to have something, I would think, that says that these are the things I bought. Here's the inventory number that I gave it. And then these other columns that'll break down what you sold it for, how much eBay fees, et cetera, et cetera.
So I have, there's a few in the group. So I'm going to put this link in the chat with all the resources.
Okay.
I'm going to redo my, let me see what mine looks like.
I know this is very basic for a lot of y'all, but
It's not basic. This is really important. Okay. So I have one in the link that I posted. We have a sample of how to determine how much profit you want to make, a sample schedule. And then in Chris's 100 item challenge, I have what I did the first 100 items, which is like when I found it, when I listed it, when I sold it, where I bought it, cost of goods, revenue, shipping, eBay fees, all that stuff for the first 100 items, so I could figure out how to do it. After that, I don't do that anymore. I don't have an inventory sheet. Most people don't, because they just track by category. So
like by shorts or by shirts or by,
I mean, by even more high level than that, meaning like just total cost of goods. So in March, I bought 67 items for 400. That's it. No line by line.
Okay.
But you should do the line by line first to understand all the different fees. We also have Cheryl's accounting call and bookkeeping call. I listened to the first 2 calls in the Cheryl section, and she has calculators and inventory sheets to use as well. But I only recommend doing that in the very beginning.
Okay. And then where do I find your YouTube thing on snappy titles?
So
snappy title YouTube.
I don't know if I made a specific one for that, but there's a lot of resources in the group for title structure. So I would look at Tech and Sports' section for how to write proper titles.
Okay.
I think is it July 27th? That call, he talks about it for like 2 hours, and essentially you'll learn how, this is really important. Maybe everybody write this down. You are going to learn how to write titles, how people naturally type them in. Right? Okay. So if you can do that, then obviously people will find your items better. That should make sense. So.
Well, and I just want to, since I'm beginning, I want to start right. I don't want to develop bad habits for next week, next month, next year.
I wish I was you.
Well, but I have you guys, so I'm good. Yeah.
You have us.
Thank you. That's all I needed.
That's it? Okay.
Today,
so in the future, there's a feature where you can raise your hand. And let's see, where is that?
Under reactions.
Okay, it's under reactions. Thank you. Sally, go ahead.
I'll look for it. Thank you. I don't see it here.
I wanted to tell her, if you look closely, I'm ironing furiously. I do not recommend, I don't do this to all my things, but here's the situation. I'm on a call I wouldn't miss for the world. I have already listed everything for today. I've got my bank work done. And so I'm sitting at home and I looked over and I had a box of things I've thrifted. And I thought, for days when I just am not operating on all cylinders, I'm going to have, and I'll show you, a box, for example, t-shirts, plain old t-shirts, easy to list, but they are all, I've gone through, they're ready to list because they don't have holes and stuff in them. And I just ran a quick iron over them and folded them. So on a day when winter is coming, I just can reach in that box and I can do 20 listings without having to work as hard as I did. So I have inventory at home. I have inventory at work. The inventory at work is just like Chris said, you lay it out the day before and it's ready for the next day and you have to do very little steaming. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. I still can't find the, oh, there it is. I see it right there in front of me. Okay, thank you. Got it.
Oh, I'm
Oh, yeah,
gonna
there
say,
it is. Okay. Thank you.
when you're using the computer, if your mouse isn't hovered over the thing, you don't see the reactions and everything else. You have to put your mouse to hover over it, then you'll see it all.
Okay, yes, thank you. I see that. I can do little hearts. I can do a little heart. Okay, thank you.
There you go. Another thing for future reference, Chris and Isaiah, I generally talk a lot. I'm pretty good with lowering my hand and raising my hand. So my hand looks like it's up from earlier, but it was a new question. I wanted to touch on what Rachel was saying about the customers like to get told what to do. I don't really believe in that. I think it's more customers are willing to relinquish their control or subject themselves to your expertise. But if you're not an expert in it, they don't want to take your advice. So like we was talking about the food thing and the customer service. If we see item specifics that are not correct, or your server is giving you something like isn't true, then all of a sudden all the rest of the information is negated. So like if you're not really being told what to do, you're subjecting yourself to being the expertise, and you expect that person to have the level of expertise that's above you. That's when you're willing to let someone else take the will of control and make the decision.
I think it's well said. And why it's so important that all your items specifics are accurate to your photo. Otherwise, you're going to lose trust of the person looking. 100%.
All right.